welcome to Sassy as Fuck. I'm John McGreevy. I'm joined by Alex Radford. This is part 2 of a chat. But if you listened last week, it finished quite abruptly. We apologise. But this is the continuation of that conversation because we only ticked off 2 of the things off my list. So I've demanded that Alex stay on for a part 2 so we can keep on, so I can finish my list. Hi Alex, how's it going?
It's good. It's going good. I'm a bit concerned because we've not measured it. Firstly, you said part 2, but you didn't say part 2 of. So it could be that this is a sequence, and also you didn't measure how many in the list there is. So is it just how many items? What are
this
we
will be
in store
2
for?
of 6, I reckon.
Okay, so this is part 2 of 3. Thank you very much for joining us on this long chat.
This is part. No, it's part 2 of 2. 2 of 2. I've only got 2 more things on my list, but I think 2 of 2 is good. So this is. So we talked last time. No, I'm not going to recap. It'd be insane to recap. If you want to know what happened last time, just listen to the last episode. Yeah,
definitely.
So something happened to me. Actually, no, Alex. Sorry, do you have anything you want to talk about before I can just go through my list? How's it going? Do you have anything to talk about? I know this has been just therapy.
I absolutely love the energy of that, where you say like, "Oh, hello," and then it's just kind of something happened to me. This is now my time. This is me. I'm talking. That's perfect. That's perfect. I don't. Now that you've set it up, I want to know what's happened to you. Like, I mean, I've done video shoots. I've done some graphic design stuff. I've done some fun things. So, what's been happening with you, John? What's happened to you?
So, Alex, I got banned from LinkedIn for several weeks.
Why did you get banned? Was it unjust?
50-50. So. So the initial reason I got restricted, I didn't get banned, I got restricted, which means I can't log on, which is the same as a ban. I got restricted because I used some engagement software, some automation software that could have just helped connect with more people and grow my network. And it was like an automation thing. And I was just trying it out. It was stupid. I probably I was like, cool, that could be useful to help build my network. And then I got flagged. They went, Which was kind of like, which would have been in isolation, like 4 days off LinkedIn. I just had to kind of go, hey, sorry, won't do it again. That's it. The problem came from the fact is that despite the fact that for all 13 or so episodes of Sassy as Fuck, I've started by saying, hi, my name is John McGreevy. A month ago, well, for the last so years, my name hasn't legally been John McGreevy. Right?
Yeah.
Tom?
Yeah. For context, my name is Thomas Alexander Radford, and John is still hurt that I use my middle name.
I'm not that hurt. My wife Jessie was very hurt because Tom misled her when they first met.
Yeah,
and she felt very betrayed. So my name wasn't really John McGreevy legally. Is Jonathan Rowe is the name I was given at birth.
Gross.
Yeah,
gross
Johnny
name.
Fish Eggs effectively was my name for the first 20, 30, whatever it is.
So
me and my
like
wife got Johnny Fish Eggs.
Johnny.
It does actually. Like, yeah. Like you always find fish eggs in the victim's ear.
He left another note.
Johnny Fish Eggs. You can smell him. So my name wasn't John McGreevy, whereas I've been on LinkedIn as John McGreevy. I function here. And in the UK, technically, if you start using a name, that becomes your name. Cool. The problem is I'd been too lazy to legally update it and update my driving license and such. And so part of the process of getting back on LinkedIn, or part of the process to kind of help speed things up, was to send in a verification of my ID. And I kind of had sent something in going, I thought I had to. Here's my ID. By the way, this isn't my actual name, but it's my name I used before, and tried to explain why.
Yeah.
But they went, fraud. You're trying to mislead people. Therefore, you cannot log into LinkedIn. So I was banned for about 4 days. I got back on for a day, and then they processed my ID verification and then kicked me off again.
Okay.
And that was like 3 weeks ago. So nearly a month this has been going on. And so I've been kicked off LinkedIn for like over 3 weeks. And so, like, okay, fine. I need to find it, which is one of the good things is that me and Jessie got married like 6 years ago. We got married and the name changes in tribute to Jessie's mum. We're both changing to McGreevy. But we got married like 6 years ago, and we both of us are pretty lazy. We've got ADHD, so we're like, we'll get around to it, to legally changing it. But so this has been a good motivating factor to actually change our name legally. And so went fine. So last week, eventually went cool. We looked at the process. We got documents drawn up. You came and your lovely wife, Katie, and a couple of our friends came round, witnessed the document signing, signed the deed. And so legally, my name is now John McGreevy. I've sent off my... Oh, sorry.
Can we just go a little bit back? Because I feel like you're misleading our listeners. You invited me, my wife, friends to a party.
For Jessie. It was Jessie's birthday last week, so we were inviting her around. Party. You guys around?
It was a wonderful time. And then you said, "Hey, Alex, can you print something off for me?"
Yes.
And I thought, okay. It might be like a little fun party game. You know, it's a donkey. We're playing pin the tail on a donkey because, you know, we're adults. That's what we do.
Because I didn't specify that these were legal documents I was getting you to print off. I just said print something off. So you thought it was probably something to do with like a board game we were going to play or something.
Exactly. It really hurt, the fact that we went all through this process and it was a ruse. You rused us, John. You said, nice fun time. And then, oh, by the way, you're bearing witness to legally changing my name because that's the only way that I can log in on LinkedIn.
So really, I mean, don't get me wrong, Nathan and Luke were already going to come over for Jessie's birthday to celebrate, but we needed more witnesses, you see. So we extended the invitation to you and Katie, and we were like, they've got a printer. We won't mention it till last minute though, just so they don't think that this is the only reason we invited them round.
Yeah.
And then on the Saturday, we sent it through and you printed off and it was great. And then you came round, we signed it. And so I sent off my new driving license.
Yep.
And then I also then went, I'll message LinkedIn going, hey, I've got this legal document. Here's a link to the UK government website saying this is a legal document. This is what's required. Pretty please can I have my account back? And so as of this morning, I'm back on LinkedIn.
You're back?
I'm back. I've already started posting things to try and aggravate people. I am back as John McGreevy, so they've accepted my new name. Amazing. I should have an ID soon enough that if it happens again, I've got actual ID. But yeah, in a time where I really need to be networking and finding work, I lost access to my entire network of 3,000 people.
So the moral of the story is aggressively spam people using automated services.
No.
If they find you, change your name.
Legally change your name.
Yeah. So my lineup is Johnny Fish Eggs. That's the next thing. I think that's my next account name.
Next
so
name
if you get like a LinkedIn request from Johnny Fish Eggs, that's me.
Cool. I like that. I think it's a good name to go. And it's free now because I'm no longer Johnny Fish Eggs. I am now John McGreevy, which is subjectively a better name. No offense to my family, the generations of Rose that came before me that I have just... I mean, we're not having kids anyway. It's not like the family name's dying with us. That's going to die anyway. Unless my sister has a child, of course, which she might do. But as it stands, we're just letting that go. We're just letting Ro just disappear.
Just piss on that lineage because LinkedIn didn't work. So fuck that. And
Yeah. So that was my exciting little ban from LinkedIn. When it started off, by the way, I was like, it's fine. I don't get that many leads from LinkedIn anyway. I'll just try something else. But after a few weeks of being like, I can't message anyone I know in the industry because I knew everyone in LinkedIn, it was starting to get a little bit old. So yeah, so thank you very much for coming around and witnessing that. And also, turns out it was a lovely night as well. So it worked out okay. So I'm sorry for being so arousing.
It's
But
okay.
it worked
The joke's
out.
on you because it is a legal document with signatures, and I have changed some of it with typos. So your name is not actually John McGreevy.
That would be a good prank 'cause I did not read the names at all. So you could have given me a new middle name. You could have fucked shit up.
What's worse is I even quality checked it because it was slightly off. So I had to give you a call halfway through going, oh yeah, this legal document, I think you've given me the wrong type. Mad.
Yes, I did. I gave you just 2 copies of my document and not one for Jesse.
It was a brilliant power play to just have your wife not have any of the legal name change.
We're changing name in tribute to Jesse's mum, and Jesse can't change the name. Yeah,
I'm doing it.
It's just my name now.
Unless you wanted her to have your name as well. Maybe that was what you wanted, to just limit confusion. You just thought, we'll just both be called John McGreevy.
Maybe. I mean, I'm not sure that would really help that much, but, that I don't think Jesse would have liked being me, to be honest.
No.
It gets confusing legally on a standpoint. Cool. So we've done LinkedIn ban.
So that's scratching number 3 of 7 topics that we're talking about.
We're on to one last one now, but
one last one. Okay. Tell you what, though, I did listen to an amazing video, I watched an amazing video about the state of Adobe and a few other 3D softwares and how...
Oh, they do SaaS, Alex. Is this going to be actually SaaS related?
It is SaaS related. It's about pricing models on SaaS, and that a lot of larger enterprises target other enterprises for their kind of software. But the entry level for art and design kind of students, they're trained on it. The university is supported by those enterprise companies because they can grab you. They can get that like, oh, we've got a hooks into you. You've learned how to use the brush tool on Photoshop. Well done. And then what happens is that they're used to that. They're used to that kind of UX and all sorts. That the pricing model is just too out of whack. You've been trained on it, but you've not paid for it because you've got a student license or something like that. But then when you actually have to use it professionally, it's difficult to get the job. It's difficult to get paid decently for that job. And then you're also hit with a wall of, well, I can't use the software unless I'm somehow making enough money to contribute towards it. And there was an amazing one. I don't know. Am I allowed to flame certain companies? Am I allowed to do that? I don't know.
Of course you are.
Well, fuck you, 3ds Max. What
This
the
is sassy
fuck
as
is wrong
fuck.
with
So go
you?
for him.
Okay,
3D
so
Go on.
3ds Max, insanity, because they've got a subscription model. There's a person that does an amazing talk about it. We might put it in the show notes if I can be asked. So currently, as it stands, I'm just getting the pricing up and getting all the information up so I can be actually accurate to what I'm doing. And I apologise for the rant, but
Don't. We love this.
it is £1,962 per person as a license for a year. A year. This is not a perpetual service. In the past, it used to be perpetual, where you got let's say you got Photoshop 2, and then you knew that Photoshop 3 was coming out in the next couple of years, but it's okay because you could still use Photoshop 2 because it's great. You have fun. But then they've started getting these pricing models that are just like, well, you need to be online. You can't. You want to use this software and you're offline. What kind of moron are you? And it's just insane. The monthly subscription, though, it's okay. Don't worry, it's cheaper. It's £246.
Fuck off.
So if you're having to pay an extortionate amount. But the thing that really like hurt me to my core with 3ds Max's kind of like pricing model was that they have a flex system. Don't worry, it's cheaper.
Okay. So this is going to be okay. So I assume. So let me guess.
Yeah,
So
sure.
a flex system, so that's obviously made to be more, maybe like a pay-as-you-go system.
Mm-hmm.
So pay per hour. I would say it's maybe like you pay per hour. So for every hour it like ticks over, and so you pay. If you use 2 hours, that's like £7 or something.
You are incredibly close. It's impressive. It's a day system. They do, not an hour.
Right.
Which
every 24 hours of use, you pay for the next day.
it's worse. It doesn't count 24 hours. It counts the day. So if you, let's say it's, because it's a token system, because this is the best way of pricing. So you've got 100 tokens, and each day is, let's round it up, nice easy 6, because that converts to 100 really nicely. So you've got 6 tokens for day 1. Let's say it's a Monday. Late night though. You've got to deliver this project tomorrow. If at 11 o'clock it's in the evening and you spend 2 hours working on it, you'll cross to another day.
No.
So you've used 2 days, not 2 hours. You've used 2 times 6. 12 tokens have just been spent over the course of 2 hours.
So you could literally, you could do that for 2 minutes. You could go on at 11:59 p.m. for 2 minutes, and it'll cost you 2 days worth of tokens.
From what I've looked at how this works, yes, that is correct. And it's upsetting. It's upsetting because I feel like the benefit of software as a service is that you don't technically own that product.
Yeah.
You know, you've got the joy of it. Often the ones that I enjoy, it updates automatically. So you're kind of locked in, you're kind of not. You're happy to pay monthly. You get brilliant updates. You feel like you can make an impact. You can have a good communication with how the product is, and you've got that kind of good reaction. It's not like shareholders are making decisions and then you're like, oh, I wish they didn't do this. But like the way that some models are going with SaaS is just crazy. Like, how could you?
It's a huge flaw, and it feels, I think there's an element of trying to be misleading with these processes. So
yeah,
obviously this SaaS, we do a SaaS podcast. I work with really entirely SaaS clients as a copywriter, and I think it's a good model in the most part. I think that the idea that, like you say, in the past you'd pay like, okay, I'm going to pay hundreds of pounds to buy this disc to install on my thing, go back. But even still, it's okay, I'll pay this much money to be able to use this software forevermore. And and they'll have to release another one in a few years. And, you know, it's not just, you don't just pay once forever, but it's that kind of thing. Yeah. The problem is, if you don't like that software, or you find you're not getting the value, you've already made that investment. So there's a benefit if you can go, right, I'm going to pay $10 a month.
Yeah.
And I'll do it for a couple of months. I really like it. Now I'll upgrade to the yearly one, probably get like 20% off and doing that. Then there's a benefit to that, and there is an affordability and accessibility. It doesn't often end up working more in the long term, but it's risk, right? You're paying less money for the risk that it doesn't work for you, don't get the value from it.
Yeah.
But what you're talking about there is, these tend to be, like you say, you use Photoshop as an example as well.
Yeah.
These tend to be industries where there's an industry standard. They are the industry standard tool for that thing. So when I was learning media studies as a kid, I learned as a teenager, I was taught with Premiere Pro.
Yeah.
I wasn't told at the time how expensive that was. I was just told, here's Premiere Pro, and they had like a school license, and it was fine. Then I left and went, oh, cool, I'll use Premiere Pro. Oh, my God, how much?
Yeah.
And back then, it was relatively straightforward to acquire a copy that I didn't need to pay for. Not that I would have done, but it was relatively straightforward back then to, I think they call it a pirate version of software.
You could sail the 7 seas, and somebody out there has it in a little treasure chest, and that's fine.
That was it. So there was, but nowadays, but even then, you paid a lot of money for that overall. But now these companies know you need to use Photoshop or Premiere Pro or 3D Max. You talked about. These industry standards know you're going to use that because that's the industry standard, and so they just rinse you. And like you say, it makes it inaccessible. It means that people who already have money in another way in life have that huge advantage because they can afford that software.
Yes.
Because if you leave university and you don't find work for, say, a year, that might be a year not using that tool and not keeping up with new features, not keeping up with that.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, it's such fucking bullshit. And it is like, SaaS can be great. SaaS can make things more accessible, but people now, because they know in certain situations you have to pay for something, or if you're going to be seen as less or seen as worse if you use a cheaper option or a different option or, whatever it might be. It's just, and you're saying it's back, right? Because say video editing is a good example then. Okay, you go, actually, I can't afford that, so I'm going to use DaVinci Resolve. Then you get a job that is using DaVinci Resolve, and you do in that for 5 years. When you then go for another job, and they expect you to know Premiere Pro, again, you're at a disadvantage again. So even though there's alternatives to use, your options are limited. I think it feels very predatory. It feels very opportunistic that these companies charge that much for these software. Make a subscription. You're paying thousands, but yet if they could decide any moment, we're closing that down. We're closing that server down.
Yeah.
You no longer have access to it, or you no longer have it. It's so dumb. So dumb.
But in the positive light of SaaS, because obviously I'm not a huge fan of that way of doing it. It is predatory. It's not great. But there is another flip side of it where back in the old days when you would buy that disc, the next year's version that's coming out had to have something. It couldn't be, as Photoshop as an example, it couldn't be like, oh, you've got a brush tool, but then the next one is another brush tool. You would be like, well, I don't need to purchase that one. So you would end up building a product or a feature to that would be like, oh, it's an eraser, it's a line tool or a ruler. It doesn't matter what it is, just a new thing. And that meant that over time, products that were long-standing were just chaos. You just couldn't. It's like, oh, there's 17 different ways of solving this problem. And then all the YouTube videos or guides that you would maybe use would just be completely redundant. So they'd need to try and do all this stuff, and training would be more complicated, which is why that monthly subscription is so nice, because it's kind of like, oh, I've got a monthly subscription, I'm paying towards it, for an achievable price. They're not doing features regularly. They're doing it every once in a while. Maybe they've got a roadmap, which is cool to have, knowing what you're going to get or those kinds of things, and you're able to see those features slowly be integrated. But when you're offering it to a person that's like, oh, the cheapest option's paying for a year, but it's just, you cannot afford that. You have to just rely on another company. And because we've got our license and the way that we operate for the user experience, it has to be this way. You can't, it's kind of like, the classic thing of, oh, I'm an Apple user, I'm a Windows user, and you're kind of like, well, effectively they do the same thing, but their view on user experience is slightly different. So your kind of exposure is slightly different. It's the same with all this kind of software. If you're kind of locked into a high cost one, you don't want to move away from that. You don't want to move from, like, even if it kind of like, I find a lot of it's with enterprise SaaS products where it's like, oh, this is a marketing tool, like, MailChimp or something like that, and it's like, it's really good. But going from that to another one's quite tricky, or going from like ClickUp to Monday, or going from Trello to something else like that. There's software that you're like, oh, but it just doesn't have these buttons. There's friction. They've created the friction there because I'm used to that system, so I don't want to spend a little bit less to get something that's a bit, better for my budget, kind of thing. It's just crazy that we're kind of getting to that point with it. But I do genuinely think that there are so many good SaaS products that listen to their customer base, and it's lower entry that works better for you. And I just wish we saw more of those.
Yeah, I think I'd like that. And there is a lot, especially like in the indie hacking and micro SaaS. Like, there's a lot of smaller SaaS companies that make it far more accessible, and the pricing's good. They have a decent free tier, and they make it worthwhile, right? You're going to go, okay, use the free tier. I can see why this is valuable and why it's worth paying $12. Oh, actually, I'd like to use this feature more, therefore I could pay $30. Yeah. And then it's worth it because you get the value. Whereas, there's this idea that you should just go, okay, well, I've got to invest this much huge amounts of money up front in hopes that it's good enough.
Yeah.
I can't. Most people can't afford to commit to these things, and it's a flaw of SaaS. And like you said about enterprise, you've got that huge commitment, and you've got the change as well. Because anyone who knows, you try and implement a new tool to replace something else, it's almost impossible. That's why when Slack came in, and Slack was like advertised or references the email killer, anyone who worked somewhere during that time learned that it didn't kill email. It just meant that you got to check 2 things in the morning. Okay, I'll check Slack and I'll check email. Yeah. And then, did you send it on email? Did you send it in Slack? I sent it in Slack. Did you? Oh, no, it was email. Let me go back. And, in your email, you're going, as I said on Slack this morning, you can't replace things in most cases in corporate world anyway. And so I think they kind of take this thing of like, well, we charge enough money, the few people that do make that change, then we'll make enough money from it. But again, any smaller businesses, and I know lots of freelancers and agencies, and it's hard because it's very difficult to find affordable solutions that aren't like massively priced up for corporate and for much bigger companies.
Yeah. The thing is, if there's genuine value and it works, it's fine. I can completely agree with it, and I'm more than happy to kind of jump onto that. But it's a scary world when there's kind of like a control and that kind of tool set for companies. And you quite rightly, it's not like if it was everyone had as simple as it was. It's a free tool like Slack, and you've got to and let's say you're targeting that as your audience. You've got to know that you're having to compete with. There's going to be one guy who goes, I don't ever use instant messaging stuff. I don't know what this is. I don't even use emails. I send letters to people. I send strongly worded letters that upsets everybody, but that's just the way that I work. And because if there's that one team member out of the 20, 30, 300, however many there is, it could be really challenging to have everyone join on side to be able to understand how that works. But
it's an interesting problem that kind of solve is that I think it's a good rant. I think it's valid. I think that people need to be a bit more accessible. I think people also need to realize if you're working in a SaaS and you're trying to grow a SaaS, you need to kind of realize that even if your software is way better than the current corporate solution, it probably doesn't matter because you're not going to get them. You're not going to get these huge companies to shift over to a new CRM. But you will be able to get those younger startups, those younger companies that are growing. They should be your target market. Get them in as they grow. Your customer base will grow.
Yeah,
but I think people go, well, this is better than, I don't know, this is better than Salesforce. Okay, probably, but it doesn't matter because if that's what they use and have used for the last 7 years, all their data's in there. Everyone knows how to use it. All their templates are in there. They're not going to switch. But if you go for those smaller, younger things where they're just making those decisions early on, they've just started going, right, we need to get a sales team, therefore we need a CRM. That's where you're aiming for.
Yeah.
That's the market. You're not going to supplant the big boys until you get to that thing. Like Slack started off in the gaming community.
It did, yeah.
And it started to be seen as being, okay, this could then be useful in an office setting. And so it organically went in and it was seen as better than email. It ended up being as well as email, but that was an organic thing that they then had to very quickly pivot and grow very quickly to try and keep up with.
Yeah.
But that's 1 in 999 million. It's not, you're not going to do that in most cases. That was a fluke. Most cases were a fluke. In most SaaS, in the case of most SaaS companies, they need to target that smaller company that will then grow into that bigger company. You're not going to get the big boys in the same way, or you're very unlikely to unless you've got a huge investment.
Yeah. I suppose it's also like, in the marketing sphere of things, we often like describe things as pain points, like how can you reduce those pain points. But I think sometimes you've got to think about if there's a migration, what is the pain point from that? What's the friction? And if it's like Salesforce, but you can migrate it. I think there was Userlist that had this, which was fantastic with Jane Portman. She explained that they had their blogs and all that content was like, well, if you're using this, well, this is the thing that you do to migrate it. Oh, you don't really have to do anything. It's a button because we've already kind of implemented it. We already are aware that transitioning to this is hard. So here's the solution for you. And it's kind of like a nice way of doing it that way.
And I guess that's where the other side of that coin, isn't it? Is that Userlist offers more It's not just do the same thing better. It's they offer more functionality. It's more specialized.
Yeah.
But even then, I imagine the majority of user list customers are people who are growing SaaS companies that they then look for a solution to their emails, and user list is the best solution at that point. But if in 10 years' time there's an even better solution, they'll probably still use user list because that's then part of it. So yeah, you need to make that easy, and it's part of a process, but you're not. It's always going to be a slog, and it's going to be better for growth to aim for. I think you're going to waste all your money if you try and go for the huge companies for your SaaS.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you could go for the Goliath, or you could just crush David. I'd crush David any time.
Exactly. Exactly. That's the right move. Hey.
Yeah.
I had a revelation recently.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
That ChatGPT is the best thing to happen to SaaS marketing.
Okay.
And it probably isn't for the reasons you think. So this has been a huge thing recently, right? Anyone in SaaS marketing, probably over the last few years, especially last year, 2 years, will have heard of ChatGPT and will have seen all the people, it's become some people's personality. Oh, I'm a prompt engineer, or I now have my own AI SaaS, or this. And most of it is just like a shell on top of ChatGPT.
Have you just looked at my LinkedIn profile?
Have you?
I've got a whole ebook on prompt engineering. What the fuck are you talking about?
Oh, and I'm sure it's worth it if you go to alexisashill.com. You can download that ebook.
Yeah.
For I imagine a monthly fee of $50.
Yeah, it's called No Bro Code, All Bro. That's the title of the book. And it's just about me being a bro for you and how prompt engineering is the future. But continue.
So there's lots of bros out there who are doing their prompt engineering or starting a startup or a SaaS that there's basically they're just putting their own like shell on top of ChatGPT and trying to rinse you for money. Mm-hmm. But it's and a lot of people are using it for content and copy generation. I'm a copywriter. I see this quite commonly. People talk about it, and fair dues to ChatGPT and these other tools like Claude and stuff like that. They can create serviceable copy and serviceable content. They can pump out blog posts that are readable and they have some value.
Yep.
And because of this, a lot of marketers are embracing it and they're using it to generate all this stuff, which creates an opportunity. And this is what I mean by it's the best thing to happen to SaaS marketers and SaaS marketing, is that so many people are adopting this approach, and it's definitely not everyone. It's, I don't know, half maybe? I'm not sure. But so many people are taking this approach to do it. There's a huge opportunity because the stuff it creates is fine. But to most people, fine isn't enough. For most if you're in marketing, you're competing with your competitors and other solutions and other types of media. If you're writing blogs, you're competing with TikTok and the TV and YouTube and going for a walk outside. It's not just against your competitors. So your content needs to be great. Your copy needs to be compelling. Mm-hmm. And so this is great. If so many people are creating copy and content that's fine, you can create genuinely good content and you'll stand out. This is an opportunity for people to get a leg up. All these marketers who are using AI to generate copy and content are making it so easy for their competitors to stand out and actually go, hey, listen to us. We're actually an authority. You know how their blog posts read like a badly written Wikipedia page? Well, our blog posts have an actual human tone of voice. They have a unique perspective. They tell a unique story. They give you tips. They give you insights. They give you passion. They give you drive. Here's a blog post where our founder tells you exactly why they give a shit about this and why this isn't an option. That kind of thing is going to go a long way. SaaS landing pages were already pretty bland before AI. They were already, if you were to guess, written by robots. So now a lot of them are. It makes it even easier for you to actually write something that feels more human and feels it's got personality. And that's great. That's great. that means that for the SaaS marketers who actually want to play the long game and create genuinely good quality content, that's great for them because they can do that. If they invest in the time and money it takes to either hire professional writers, human writers who actually can have a human tone of voice and speak in like an actual person and show passion. Or if you take the time themselves to create that content themselves and, talk to the people and get ideas and try new things and take some risks for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
Because AI can't take risks because all it's based on is trained on existing things. So it can't have an original thing. It can't have an original idea or actually take a risk because it doesn't have the concept of that.
Mm.
So you can do that. Be different on how you brand your software or you brand your landing page, how you create your content. And you will win because it's going to be easier to, because everyone else isn't trying very hard now.
Yeah.
They're settling for, that looks like copy, that looks like content. So it becomes a great opportunity. So that is what my realization, that ChatGPT is like a really, really good thing for the SaaS marketers who actually want to be good, because people say like, oh, it levels the playing field. AI does. And by the way, I'm talking just about AI generated content. AI has got genuinely good uses in a lot of things like the medical field and stuff like that.
Oh,
so many great uses. But I'm talking about generative AI. This bullshit where like, oh, it spits out an answer. It's like I'm talking to a person. Have you ever met a person that talks like ChatGPT? Because if I did, I'd probably smash her over the head with a frying pan because there's clearly a problem and they're about to kill me. But yeah, that's my realization of late.
I think you're right, actually, with some, like, I don't think I would ever argue with that, because I think, when you were setting it up that it's done good things, I think I get a tinge of annoyance of, well, you're wrong, because it's awful. But then I kind of think to myself of web development, because, if we're talking about like SaaS stuff, that might be something a bit more relatable. But a number of years ago, do you ever remember the Flash websites? Do you remember that there was like 5 like rows and they were all terrible? I'm sure you can maybe go onto the old Flash website and they are awful. Some of the websites are awful. You don't know where the contact us page is. You don't know if the buttons are clickable or even work. Yeah. And it's just crazy. So then they created more standardized ways, and it's kind of like Web 2.0, I think it is, where they kind of just made it an easy way of doing things. We got templates. We got the WordPress. We got all those kinds of kind of more standardized ways of developing things. We got themes. We got builders. We got all that stuff. That didn't mean that the web developers didn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
They were even more vitally important, because they were like, oh gosh, we need people we've got a web app, SaaS now, we've got like Netflix, or we've got, all this stuff. And, you've got all the people that are trying to train and develop their skills in web development and going, oh, I want to do a Netflix clone. It's like, well, that's because it's genuinely got a good user experience. It's got a good developed side of things. It's got clever solutions still on a website and still needing the same people that they needed 10, 20 years ago. That it seems mad for everyone to go like, oh, well, because the latest ChatGPT version of image generation's come out, it's very, very good. There are a lot of alarming errors with it, but that's fine, because it means that like, I've always loved it when they call it an AI smell, of like, there's something deep within your bones that you're kind of going, something's not quite right. And I think you're right. It's not taken a risk. It's not made a mistake. And you might go, oh, well, that's bad. But in like art, as an example, having mistakes can sometimes help blur and make that picture better. It doesn't have to be perfect. And, the thing that I love so much about reading AI stuff right now is that I can tell with it's like a negative clause where it's like, it's not just AI. It's a new changing AI. It's kind of like, they always have this kind of phrasing, and like the pioneers to vibe coding. I don't know if you've heard about vibe coding.
I've heard of vibe coding, but
it's amazing. So there are now a lot of people that are developing software using AI because it's getting a bit more rigid. It's getting a bit more accurate in its continuity, which is fantastic. It means that we're getting a lot of people entering it. But I think the thing that I see about it is that you will make the mistake. So you'll put in the API key in your code, which is a huge no-no to do. But that's because it doesn't know that that's what you're doing. It's just looking at the averages. You wanted to put a key in there, that's fine. You're not the expert. If you're wanting to write convincing copy and you're using AI to do it, then that's fine. You could do it. But you will go, but this just feels really generic. This doesn't feel like my brand, my SaaS brand. And that's the thing, because like you need to make yourself unique. You need to niche down.
Yeah.
But AI can't niche at all. It's really hard to do that because it's just going, well, I've scraped all this information. So how do I make that sound unique? It's just, I think you're right. We are in a wonderful world, but we do need to realize that the AI is intern still. We don't want to give them the big red button of doom that will blow up everything, because you wouldn't give the intern that. You wouldn't give it the keys to your website fully because it could do something that's a security risk. But you would still have it go, hey, can you give me a few ideas? Can we work on this? And then you go, that is awful. I would definitely still hire somebody as a professional.
So I think that you made a really good comparison before about when like web design and HTML kind of got a bit more standardized. So websites all of a sudden, okay, you can roughly guess where certain buttons are going to be in a certain format, things like that. And the standards are created. And people say about AI, it levels the playing field. It democratizes creativity or whatever wank it is. And people miss the point there. So when things get like, say when like web design got kind of more standardized, and it meant that it made it much easier to create a website. Anyone could create a WordPress website or use Weebly or Webflow or any of these things you can use to create things. And they're all really good tools. But that's not what makes a good website.
No.
That's not what makes it good. Being able to talk like William Shakespeare isn't what makes William Shakespeare's books good. Books, plays, good. Like, being able to create something that looks like Studio Ghibli isn't what makes Studio Ghibli good.
No.
There's so much more to it. Like you said, there's the imperfections there. Is there? People saying, it levels a playing field. No, it doesn't. Because just because everyone can make software doesn't mean that all software is equally as good. Like you say, there's flaws in how it's made anyway. So there's going to be so much risks. Understanding how software works is how you make good software that works well. And you have testers and you have UX people and you have these experts who see it with their eyes and use a brain and go, well, that's not going to work, or that could be improved, things like that. This idea that just because you can create something that looks like software or create something that looks like art or create something that looks like literature, that it is, all we're going to end up with, and sticking with SaaS, like you say, you can create SaaS tools now with AI and they can code it. Yeah, you'll end up with a lot more SaaS tools, but like it's always been, still the better ones that are going to be the ones that can sell themselves better, the ones that can describe the problem, the ones that can. It doesn't matter if you've perfectly solved the problem if you can't explain why it's the perfect solution.
Yeah.
And if it's not easy to solve that problem, it's useless. And if there's a problem and the person who created it doesn't understand what's actually making it do a thing, how do they fix that thing? How do they improve it? How do they make sure it's secure? How do you not know that AI hasn't fucked something up without expert help? So you'll then need to have software engineers to support these apps. And also everything looks the same. If you think about video editing as a great example, if a great tool comes out that can perfectly edit any video into a good marketing video that looks like what's a good marketing video now, two things happen. One, everything looks the same, and so nothing stands out. And two, everything looks like what marketing videos look like now. Nothing is going to change and evolve. If you look at YouTube videos now compared to YouTube videos 10 years ago, there's a fucking huge gulf in quality, style, content, length. It stands still. And so the videos that will actually do well are, guess what? The ones that are fucking different. The ones that don't all look the same, aren't edited the same, aren't the same length. Oh, we've worked out that the optimal length is 11 minutes and 12 seconds. Okay, so every video is that. Okay, so I'm going to click on the video that's 9 minutes or the one that's 15 minutes because that's not going to be just some AI-generated shite. Looking the same is the worst thing to do in marketing. And that's what will happen if everyone uses the same tools to generate things. Every software will work the same. Every video will look the same. Every podcast will sound the same. It's pointless. And it just, as soon as everyone catches up, everyone's behind. Because the people who don't do that same thing will already be miles ahead. And you're there going, but they need to update this AI app so it looks more like their video now. But by the time it catches up to that, they'll be ahead again. It's just... It's such a false economy, and I understand the appeal, especially if you're short on money, or you want to save, you want to tell your investors, look, we're saving this much money a month by using ChatGPT instead of hiring writers. Great. But in a year's time, when you're like, all our copy and content sounds exactly the same as our competitors who are using the exact same tool, you can't be surprised and you can't be upset when your investors turn around and go, well, why are we not getting, why do people not buying from us anymore? And you go, well, it's because we look exactly the same as everyone else. It's just, it's such a false economy and it's such short-term thinking. And if you're trying to just grow as fast as you can and then sell in a year, cool, do it. This is the right thing for you. If you want to actually have a steady growth over several years, it's such a flawed approach and people will suffer for it. And like you say, those experts that end up being out of work for the next year because people are using these tools will end up just back on even more money because people are going, help us, please, God's sake, please come in and help us because this isn't working anymore. And then ends up being more expensive because they pay for the tool. ChatGPT will keep adding the prices and every tool will increase the prices. And then you've got to come in and get people to fix it anyway. So it's just such a false economy and the people who shun that approach will win, and the people who embrace that approach will end up going, fuck, in a year's time, or 2 years' time, or 3 years' time, whatever it is. It's just, it doesn't work. It's short-term thinking, short-termism at its most ridiculous.
I think one of my favorite examples of it is with kind of like this time element of things is that a while ago, I don't think it's the case now because they're quite clever to try and avoid this, but you would ask it to roll a 6-sided die and you'd be like, well, okay, that's just a dice roll, it can be random. Everybody that rolled it would get the number 4 because the average number between 1 and 6 was 4. That was just what it was, and that was a huge problem. Now I think what it does is it just gives you a little script and it does an actual like Python script or something like that because it's trying to avoid that trap.
Yeah, okay.
Or like, the classic example that's been used is the bunch of bananas. Anytime you asked it to generate an image of a banana alone, it was difficult because it would always just go for the average and that kind of thing. And it's locked away in time. I think, when ChatGPT first came out, it was like, this is trained on information from this year. Yeah. And then you were there frustrated because you couldn't modernize itself.
Yeah.
It couldn't think what's relevant. And we're just running out of that. And you're right. It's kind of, if we've got this issue of AI training on itself. So then what eventually happens is, it's like when you're at university or you're kind of trying to make sure that you write an argument, you made sure you had your sources. You made sure that everything was unique. You didn't go through the secondary source. You didn't go like, oh, I've got an argument with my friend. I believe that the color blue is the best color ever. You don't go, oh, I'm going to find the YouTube video of blue color is the best, because the person's going to be like, well, what do you mean? That of course it's going to say that. That's not truthful. That's not information that's valuable. And because of that, like, it just becomes like the cesspool internet of that's where we put all the junk. That's just the AI stuff because it's all the same and it's all looking at the same
cannibalized, thing. Right? You end up with this. It's the technological equivalent of incest, where you like right now it's already happening where these tools are using AI generated copy and content to generate content. It's using AI generated art to generate art, and so it's just ingesting itself in this weird human centipede of content. And art.
And the problem with is that so the solution is let's not train it on AI stuff then, and that is just the madness. I think there is still some stuff. I think ChatGPT 4. I might be wrong on this. I think 4.0 or then their latest one. They said we're not training it on anything of this period of time because we know that this was when AI started happening. So we have to avoid it. We have to make sure that what we're doing isn't influenced
because they're going to be, they can't train it on the shit early stuff, right? But then they're going to run out of things because as soon as people go, well, we can detect what's AI generated, you have somebody else creating an AI tool that hides AI generated content from being detected as AI.
Yeah.
So you end up in this fucked up cycle where it's going, this is either not AI or it's really good AI.
Yeah. And obviously we've got like cool digital sniffing tools. We've got AI sniffing tools that are slowly coming in of like, it's got a fingerprint. We know that it's safe. And I fully support that. And I think, that's one thing that will help us. But then it will just mean that, we know it's AI, so it loses its value. It's kind of, there's already this weird perception that we have. Whereas I think there is some good stuff that we can do. But like, if you're coming up with a brand new idea, you don't want to speak to average Steve. You want to speak to mad bastard John. You don't want to, it's like, because you're going to be like, oh, what are we going to hear from mad bastard John? Oh, it's going to be something really different. It's probably going to be fucking awful. But then there'll be some cool things. But if it's average Steve off in the corner, he's probably just, drinking his black coffee, having his white bread because he doesn't toast it because it's just better that way. Like,
giving everyone the same boring advice.
Yeah. And complimenting you too much. I've never... So I use AI. I'm really happy to admit that. I use that sometimes for things and I try and come up with stuff. And it's way too nice. To the point of, I roll my eyes when it goes, oh, that's a great idea, Alex. You're really good at thinking about these new marketing strategies for this or whatever it is. And I'm thinking, oh, great, of course you're going to say that. Thanks, ChatGPT.
This is the problem, right? ChatGPT is built by Americans and we're English. And English people, if you've ever started a new job in England, you know that people aren't nice. You start and people are like, this is the new guy. Here's John. He's starting today. He's clearly very nervous. Yeah. So what you should all do is basically blank him for the rest of the day. Really make no effort to make him feel welcome at all. You need to just basically treat him like, for some reason, he's an enemy of some kind, like a spy that's sent there. Make no attempt to small talk, or if you do, make sure it's 30 seconds long, and that's gonna be. We're not used to people being that friendly or out the gate. Yeah, you build up after a few months. Eventually, someone's like, "Okay, I'm gonna show them some personality here," and then you can start to build a rapport. Straight away being like, hey, sure, you want this. ChatGPT in Britain should be much more distant and passive-aggressive early on, and only after about a few months of lots of interactions does it start actually trying to help you.
That's it. I want a feature request of after about a year, it knows my name.
Yeah. So, it calls you Alan for the first year, and then eventually it's like, oh, Alex, sorry. You're too nice to correct it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm there like, oh yeah, sure, whatever. And then every once in a while I'll be like, it's Alex actually. Like, come on.
And it's like, oh, sorry. Yeah, and I go. And it's like, it's like, oh, Alec.
Yeah. It's still because that to me would be the perfect.
Yeah, AI we need a British ChatGPT. ChatGPT.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's where it's at. That's a passive aggressive, unhelpful ChatGPT that you have to build upon. Yeah. Cool. So we've covered off AI now. I'm sure we'll never talk about AI ever again.
Yeah, I don't think that's a topic point that will ever be covered in.
I think I think everyone's gonna just stop talking about it soon. I think it's not here to stay. There we go. This is a nice marathon.
Yeah.
Episode. This has been part 2 of our 2-part bonanza of Sassy as Fuck. Thanks, Alex. It's been lovely chatting to you. It always is lovely chatting to you.
I think this. Yeah.
Anything to share before we cut this off?
I think this is the first time that we've actually had a discussion about SaaS that went on a tangent about SaaS. You know, we talked about pricing, we talked about general philosophies and development, issues that can arise from those kinds of things, and then we've gone on to...
Wait, hang on. So, just make some notes here. I've had an idea, Alex.
Yeah.
I think we should talk about SaaS more on this SaaS podcast.
I think that might be quite good, because I'm fearful that our audience and our listeners are generally going, oh, it's just two guys that really like SaaS but have no clue about what it is. And we just talk about
the title is more aspirational than it is
exactly. Yeah, and I feel like we don't often get to share our experiences or our expertise in the matter at all. We're just kind of there interviewing lovely people that are experts at it. It's just, this is the first time I felt like we've actually had a conversation about it together. You know?
Yeah, it is. It's a good point. Actually, like, you know, having a podcast about SaaS does imply that we are knowledgeable about SaaS, and we are, but we very rarely show it. We should do that more. This is a lesson. This is a turning point for us, Alex. From now on,
wow. Okay.
We're going to make this SaaS podcast more about SaaS.
Well, we've got to oust the other SaaS one, right? So it's the only way.
Yeah, we have to beat them. We have to keep going, and we have to shit all over them. And we don't want them to turn and go, you guys don't even talk about SaaS in your podcast.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God.
Cool. Well, thank you, Alex, for joining me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone else at home for listening or watching, because you can watch it on Substack or YouTube if it uploads. I don't think the last one didn't upload. I just sort that out. Okay. If you're not subscribed on Substack, let us know. We will then email you when there's new episodes out. We will also have other articles and videos potentially coming out through that channel in the future as well. So it's not just going to be the podcast. Sassy as fuck is going to be more than just a podcast. You watch this space. It is going to be a powerhouse.
Oh my God.
In the SaaS industry. Over the coming years. So thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you, Alex, for humouring me for the last 2 hours. I love you all. Mwah. Bye-bye.
Oh, bye.
The kiss was for the listeners, not for you, to be clear. That wasn't... I just get really weird at the end there, just being like...
I liked it. I thought it was loving and kind, and now...
And it was, just not to you.